now.
Okay.
You want to do 30?
No, well, we'll just keep going. Till the next person goes.
So
Let's do 20.
Okay.
Let's do 20 if you want to keep
What I
going.
want to do is real quickly, at the end of this, I'm going to put that second chair in and get Geese in with Jeremy too, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we'll close out with that. Does that sound good?
Yep, you just let me know when.
Did you see the Hobart and Laporte books up there?
I did not.
I want you to take a look at those before you go so you know what we're doing.
Okay, very good.
Because I think it's important to see the big picture on what this is all about. You ready to go?
Okay.
Yep, we are recording.
All right.
I'll come right there.
Jeremy Lowery. All right, from Jeremy, a big part of the culture that Chris and Dr. Spiker created early on when he came in was creating something that they call the Penn Way. It's a mindset, and I'd just like for you to talk about, as an athlete, moving in to be a part of the Penn Way. Having said that, and then professionally where you're at right now, as a head football coach in Indiana, what is the Penn Way?
You know, so interesting, like you mentioned, I did not grow up a Penn kid. I did not grow up coming through the system. I grew up in southeast of Houston, in Texas, a football state. I was at a basketball school in a football state. And to tell you the truth, when Mom first came home, said we were moving, I wasn't very excited about it at first. And then we moved up, got settled in, started two-a-days at Penn, and I realized really quick that I was exactly where I needed to be. I couldn't believe that I had lucked into a situation to be surrounded by people that loved football as much as I did. So after about 2 weeks of a little bit of homesick and whatnot, it just became second nature, and it didn't take long before I felt like that I did grow up there. As far as the Penn Way, it's what's interesting to me about the Penn Way is how we worked so hard every day. I mean, you know, people don't realize how hard Penn football, how hard we work at it when we're there. Is there time off? Yeah, there's time off, but when we're there working, we are there working. Kids dedicated, high intensity, high effort. And the thing that was amazing about that is it didn't seem like work. It never seemed like work. It never seemed like work because there's no other place on earth we'd rather be. You know, we were kind of at a unique period when I got there. You know, the program had already been established. You know, matter of fact, it was funny, during those years, it was kind of, I think, maybe my junior year, somebody came up with the saying, let the big dog eat. And that was kind of, hey, you've built this thing, now let's see where it can go. And that's kind of, it was established. You know, people before us had done hard work. We were just, at that point, we were the caretakers. You know, we were just taking care of it at the time because it had already been built. But the amazing thing was, it just seemed so effortless. We worked so hard, but it seemed so effortless because we genuinely wanted to be there.
Chris tells the story, and I'll have him when he comes up here. I'm going to try to recreate this, that you come in, get introduced, and they got a film. You got a VHS film.
Yeah.
You put the film in, right? Is that what it was? And then you see this guy running down the field, or was that what it was?
He was returning a punt.
Returning a punt. So he sees you on film and says, "Go get that guy a uniform." So something.
We want to give T-shirts and everything.
Yeah. So that was what it was about. So do you recall that moment at all?
I believe he's talking about the film my father sent him before we moved up.
Right.
From Texas, and there was a little clip in there, kind of a botched punt deal. Picked it up, made a couple plays, got it on the edge, and kind of hit the gas, and got to show a little bit of what, you know, some things that God gave you that you were given, some speed and some things like that. And I think the first time he saw that, he was probably like, okay, I think this kid can play a little. And you know, that's the thing with Coach. You know, you talk about the Penn Way, and you know, the things that I look back on that I'm so fond of is, you know, that guy over there, he knows how to make people feel good about themselves. You know, that no matter what the situation is, what instance you're in, you know, he may be up getting recognized for some lifelong achievement, but somehow he's going to spread the credit to other people and make other people feel great about themselves. And I think that's how we've been able to accomplish everything we've been able to accomplish over the years.
So if you look back on listening and watching and observing Chris, you're going to be a head coach for the first time at Paoli. So you're going to have to try to take as much of that Giesman-esque personality and mindset into this role. Give us an idea on how you're going to instill some of that values with the Rams.
You know, it goes back, you know, what we touched on a little bit is, you know, I want my kids to love the game. I want our kids to love the game. I want them to want to come to practice every day. I want them thirsting for more, always wanting a little bit more, always looking at how they can improve their game. You know, I think that starts with trust. I think that starts with making people feel good about themselves. You know, I coach high school football because of the relationships. You know, we're doing this stuff now and we're trying to recall things that happened 20, 30 years ago, stuff like that. And you know what, we remember a lot of them. Matter of fact, you're hearing some of these stories, it's amazing how much people remember. We remember because it meant something to us. But you know, as it goes on, you know, some of the scores, they get a little fuzzy. You know, some of the exact plays, they get a little fuzzy. But the thing we never forget are the relationships. You know, those relationships that were built on that practice field in those games, and that's why I coach high school football. I had a great experience. I was lucky. I was lucky. You know, I've been dealt a great set of cards. I got to, from the very beginning, I got to play for great coaches all the way up through. I got to coach with great coaches all the way up through, and just try to be a junkie along the way and gather up that as much as you can and try to share as much of that with our young men at Paoli as I can, and just try to give them, you know, if I can give them a quarter of what the game gave me, of what these guys gave me, these great coaches through the years, then I feel like we've accomplished something.
All right, I want you to take me back to the years specifically. Let's go backwards from senior, junior, and so on. What do you remember specifically the most about your senior season?
My senior football season, we had a very good offensive football team returning. Defensively, we came into it. We got a lot better as it went on, but we had a dynamite defense in '89 that led us to the state final. Kind of that year before in '89, going back a little bit, the offense was young. We kind of just got hot at the right time when the tournament started that year offensively. Then the next year, my senior year, we brought back a lot of offense. We graduated a couple very good players, but we replaced them with some very good players. Brian Grimes, a fantastic quarterback my junior year. Brent Baldwin stepped in, took his job my senior year. So right there, you know, two great quarterbacks. So we pretty much came in offensively that year ready to go. Defense developed as we went along. The most interesting thing in that year was the South Bend, Washington team. Okay, so South Bend, Washington, Coach Bovenkirk, Coach Bart, the head coach of Mishawaka now. He was on the defensive staff there at the time. So they put together a heck of a team. The year before, they played us pretty solid. This year, they were coming to beat us.
Sure.
And that came down to a slobber knocker. We beat them 14-13 in kind of a sloppy field slugfest with an interesting ending. And that was kind of that was one of the brighter spots of that year that I'll never forget.
Was that the night that the lights went out?
That was the night that the lights went out.
The lights went out?
That was the night that the lights went out.
Matt tells that story very, very vividly, that changed I guess Bovee, it didn't sit well with Bovee that the lights went out.
I think a lot of people have a different opinion on what actually happened with the lights. You know, there's some sort of transformer issue. Of course, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what made it even more interesting is the game was locally really publicized, pumped up, a lot of media coverage.
Yeah.
They had a camera crew follow them over from South Bend on the bus. All the every fire station they passed, tooting horns. I mean, they thought they had us. They really thought they had us. And so when the lights went out, it was pitch dark. The scoreboard was shining, and the only other thing shining was all these camera crews that were there with the light on the camera. So you'd get these interviews of just, you know, pretty much so controlled chaos of people really excited or really disappointed, depending on which end of it you were on. And it was just I've never seen another high school setting like that. And it was entertaining.
All right, so let's go now to your junior year.
Okay.
What do you think about what stands out in your junior year?
So junior year, that was, for me personally, that was a big change, okay? Because I was now a starter on offense. Transferring in my sophomore year, I got a lot of Friday night playing time. Got to go out, got to live a lot on some natural ability. And then junior year, hey, you're coming in as a starter now. You got to know this, you got to know this, you got to know not only what we're doing here, but how it's blocked up, a little bit more understanding of the offense, and a little bit more of maybe pulling the reins back a little bit instead of just go run. So took a little adjusting there, and then once made that adjustment, felt really good, ready to go. We went on a nice run there. We had a heck of a draw there. So that was a year that we started off with Fort Wayne North, then we played Northrop, and then we finished up with Schneider. Okay, so we had to go through all 3 Fort Wayne schools. The hardest was kind of, in my opinion, was Fort Wayne North. And that was kind of return to the scene of the crime. They had knocked us off the year before, up there in a very sloppy, nasty field conditions. The next year in '89, field conditions were the same but worse. Sloppy field. I mean, pretty much so. We showed up, and it's how we left the field the year before. You know, it's how we left it. What are we going to do this year? Return to the scene of the crime. So we ended up edging them 10-3, I believe, and gained some momentum there. Handed Northrop and Schneider, handled them pretty handedly, and then we moved on up to Lafayette Jeff.
Yep.
And that was a haul, because there was really no good way to get there. So it seemed like it took us forever to get there, and then we get there, and we play very well. We handle them, you know, it's a pretty solid win, one-sided, and I'll never forget, that's when it hit. We're changing after the game, and I believe it was Jeremy McCaskill. Not positive, but I believe it's Jeremy McCaskill. He reached in his locker, and there was a penny in the bottom of his locker. And he picked it up, and it was a 1983 penny. And he came over and he showed it to me. Look, I found that in my locker. It's 1983 penny. And of course, that was the last year Penn had gone to state. And I knew right there we were going. That was the first time it really hit me and reality set in. Hey, we go take care of business this week against Valparaiso. At that point, I don't even know if we knew it was going to be Valparaiso. But whoever was next, we go take care of that, and we're going to play in the show. And that's when it hit.
And then?
Then Valpo came to our place. Interesting game. We start showing up for pregame. Not a whole lot of snow on the ground. Little lake effect comes in. By the time kickoff, I'd say at least 4 or 5 inches. Extremely cold. They had a fantastic looking middle linebacker. I can't remember his name. I'm wanting to say he wore number 11. And he always, all year long, that was back when you could tuck the shirt up under your shoulder pads and show your midsection, and he had a nice 8-pack there, good-looking, physical kid, played middle backer, and we'd watch him on film. I mean, he was a man. Well, freezing cold out there, right? So all of our offensive linemen, the Hogs, they show up in pregame, no gear on underneath, shirts tucked up under. Now, of course, they didn't have the 8-pack that young man had, but they were making a point right off the get-go that, hey, we're going to be physical inside here. We're a running football team, and we're not going to be intimidated. We came out of the gate on there, got to a really good start. 20-0, somewhere in there. You know, that's where I talk about. Sometimes the score's now starting to get a little fuzzy, but defense played very well. We surprisingly had a couple nice plays in the throw game, even with the weather. And then, of course, we knew we were on our way. We were going to Indianapolis. And shortly after that, we figured we were going to be found out we were going to be playing Carmel. And that was going to be a defensive showdown. You know, I'd mentioned earlier how impressive our defense was. Theirs was very impressive as well, and that's what it turned out to be. It was a
What are your reflections of the Carmel game?
The Carmel game, it was, you know, of course, first, you know, you get there and you get past the gooing and guying of being in back then what was the old Hoosier Dome.
Oh, yeah.
Heck, that was before it was even the RCA Dome. That was the Hoosier Dome. And you get through all that, and I was excited. You know, just that excitement, getting to play on a different field surface, and getting to play in front of all those people. I felt like I always got excited about the big games. I can always remember from my early time when I first got there, Coach Giesman would always say, big players play big in big games. And I just always really tried to take pride in that and tried to live up to those expectations. So the game unfolds just as we thought. Defensive struggle. We turned the ball over a couple times, what we had not done in the playoff run early in the season, but still hanging right in there. We go to halftime, a 7-0 lead. They come out, they fight back, they get a score. We have an opportunity late in the third. We kind of get in the red zone, attempt a field goal, doesn't work out for us. And then basically we're pinned late in the game. We have to punt. We have a phenomenal punter, maybe outpunts the coverage a hair. They get a nice return, run a couple plays, and then it's down to a field goal with 4 seconds left in the game. They kick the field goal as time expires, and we come up short.
Angry about the loss?
Oh, you never forget it. You never forget it. You know, my goal as
were you disappointed or angry? Or both?
Disappointed. Disappointed. No anger. Disappointed. You know, that was a special team, and we take a lot of pride that we were the team to get Penn back. You know, from 83 to 89, there was a little bit of a gap there, and that was a tight-knit football team. Strong relationships, strong trust. Just came up a little short. Came up a little short. Now I'll tell you, it drives me. It drives me as a football coach. I want to get back there. I want to get back there and change the result.
We're going to bring Chris up here in a second, but I want you to share with us the Penn moment that is defining for you. It may be practice. It may be just the journey. It may just be that moment. It may be a moment of walking in, introducing. It may be now. talking to this guy? I mean, I don't know. So
Right.
what's the Penn defining moment for Jeremy Lowery? Or does he have one yet?
You know, it's really hard to put my finger on one thing. It was such a life-changing experience for me. It really was. I'll tell you one thing that stands out in my mind. For some reason, it's just jumping out to me is the day I got my Gold Rush sticker. I remember coming home and just looking at my helmet, looking at that sticker on that helmet saying, it's your time. You know, it's your time to represent this football team as a starter, as a leader, and you're not just part of the ride anymore. You can't just jump on and enjoy the ride anymore. You've got to be a part of this. You've got to be a part of shaping others, of influencing others, of being a leader. That was as defining moment as any.
Okay, pause.